All right, let's dive into demand theory. At its core, demand theory helps us understand how consumers decide what to buy and how much to buy, given factors like price, income, and personal preferences. It's kind of the foundation, of how markets operate. Now, one of the key ideas here is the relationship between price and quantity demanded. This is often illustrated by the demand curve. Imagine, a graph where the price is on the vertical axis and quantity demanded is on the horizontal axis. Generally, the curve slopes downward, showing that as prices drop, demand tends to increase. Pretty intuitive, right? But there's more nuance to it. We also have the concept of elasticity to think about. Basically, elasticity measures how sensitive the demand for a product is to changes in its price. Some goods, like basic food items, have inelastic demand, meaning price changes don't affect the quantity people buy all that much. But for other things like luxury goods, demand is elastic. If the price jumps, people might just, opt out. And then there are other variables at play too, like consumer income or the prices of related goods, which can be substitutes or complements. For example, if the price of, let's say, train tickets increases, you might see more people opting for buses instead, assuming those are substitutes. It's all interconnected, and that's what makes this area so fascinating to study. So let's start with the price of a good. Price is a huge driver in determining individual demand. When prices drop, we tend to see demand go up. A pretty straightforward concept, right? But what's interesting is how this plays out differently depending on the type of good. Take necessities like bread or milk. Even if the price goes down, the increase in demand won't be, massive. It might not even budge much. On the flip side, for goods that are more discretionary, like, say, new gadgets, a price drop can spark a spike in demand because people might have been waiting for exactly that opportunity. Now, stepping back for a second, it's important to also consider other determinants of individual demand. Personal income, for example, plays a key role. If someone's income goes up, they're likely to buy more, or perhaps opt for pricier alternatives. Luxury items in particular, kind of thrive on this principle. Preferences also matter. If a certain product suddenly becomes trendy, or let's say a brand gains a lot of goodwill, consumer demand can shift almost overnight. And then there are external factors, like seasonal changes or even marketing campaigns that can nudge demand in either direction. Oh, and don't forget about substitute goods. Let's use coffee and tea as an example. If coffee prices shoot up, tea might become the go-to for a lot of people. Or complements, think smartphones and apps. If phones get more affordable, the demand for apps usually rises too. It's all about the way these elements fit together. All right, now let's zoom out a little and talk about aggregate demand, or market demand. So what we're really looking at here is the total demand for a good across all consumers in a market. It's kind of like, adding up all the individual demand curves we've been talking about. This gives us a bigger picture, how a whole market reacts to changes, not just individual buyers. What drives this market demand? Well, first off, you've got factors like the overall purchasing power, which is tied to income levels. If more people have disposable income, the market demand for, say, new cars or vacations can surge. But it's not just about money. Expectations also play a role. If consumers believe prices are going to rise soon, they might, rush to buy now, boosting demand in the short term. Now let's get into the movement along the demand curve. This happens when there's a change in the price of the good itself. So imagine if concert tickets go on sale. Demand increases as the price drops. But the thing is, this is all within the existing demand curve. It's important to keep in mind this reflects just a price-based shift along the curve. But if something else changes, say a brand new trend or a new competitor enters the market, that's when we're talking about a shift in the demand curve. Picture this. A new diet trend might suddenly make a particular type of snack super popular. The entire demand curve moves to a new position because something other than price, the determinant, has changed. That's a shift, not just a movement along the existing curve. All right, let's take a closer look at price elasticity of demand, starting with direct price elasticity. This is about measuring how much the quantity demanded of a good changes when its price changes. It's kind of like asking, how responsive are people when prices fluctuate? For instance, think about a product like movie tickets. If prices go down, you can expect more people to head to the theatre, right? That's a scenario where demand is elastic. It reacts quite a lot to price changes. On the other hand, something like an essential medication would have inelastic demand. Even if prices go up, they still need to buy it. Now here's where it gets interesting. How this elasticity ties into supply revenues. If demand is elastic, lowering prices might actually increase total revenue because the surge in quantity sold makes up for the lower price. But if demand is inelastic, raising prices often leads to higher revenues since the drop in quantity sold is minimal. It's a balancing act, really, and it's crucial for businesses to figure this out, especially in competitive markets. And then we've got indirect or cross-price elasticity. This happens when the price of one good affects the demand for another. Let's say the price of coffee suddenly skyrockets. What do you think happens? People might start buying more tea instead because it's a substitute. Or if the price of, gaming consoles drops significantly, the demand for video games, its complement, might increase because more people are buying the consoles. It's all interlinked, and understanding these relationships can be a total game changer for businesses and even policymakers. So this exploration of demand theory has been quite the journey, huh? From individual decision-making to market dynamics, it's amazing how interconnected everything is. And that wraps up our episode on demand in the goods market. Thanks for tuning in and walking through these concepts with me. Till next time, take care and keep learning.